I think we are going on the YouTube now.
Yes.
Okay, so I will hand this to Lianne. Thank you, Lianne.
You're welcome. Okay, hi everyone. I think we're live on YouTube now. Rod has a couple of technical hitches tonight with his broadband, so he's passed on to me. But he is there, and I'm sure he'll join in wherever possible. So there he is. So tonight we've got loads to talk about. There's so much going on in the news, isn't there? But we're going to focus on Ecuador, the post office crisis in the UK, and we're going to look at Gaza and the Israel subject. So what were we going to start with, Rod? Was it Gaza or Ecuador? Remind me, please.
Ecuador would be nice.
Ecuador,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
So I think I'm passing on to Ana. So Ana, if you want to share your screen and lead us into it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you to you. Thanks to you. Let me know if you see it.
Yes.
We can see it.
Great. Well, Ecuador again in the paramount. Well, what happened is the following. This is the map of Ecuador. Quito is here and Guayaquil is here where the events happened. Guayaquil is a port. So on Sunday, Fito, a leader of a gang, escaped from prison. The next day, on Monday, Noboa declared a state of emergency. On Tuesday, these armed men stormed in the TV station, and we know the story about the threatening the journalist. At the same time, and the same Tuesday, Noboa declared the 22 of this group as terrorist gangs, and he declared that it was internal armed conflict. It was not the only event. There were a lot of people being killed, kidnapped, people, prison guards and employees in prisons were taken as hostage by the inmates. So there's a lot of problems going on there. So this event started because the leader of one of the gang escaped. It was supposed to be in another jail, but suddenly he disappeared. And another leader gang again also disappeared. So there has been a lot of problems. So this is the chart of Ecuador. And we can see here that Mars transiting is with Jupiter, and especially the Sun with the Neptune, which is the ruler, one of the ruler of the fourth house, squares the transiting nodes. At the same time, transiting Neptune is very close. It's hitting, but it's very close to Mars, which is the ruler of the 12th house, the jails, and the 5th house. For me, the 5th house is the crisis of the government because it's the 8th from the 10th. So it is like it's shaking those moments and challenging the government about this topic. And Uranus, transiting Uranus, squares the axis of the communication and transportation. So everything related with journalism, the TV media, and the transportation of these people from one jail to another jail. So it is very shaky. But not only that, in that day, the moon in Sagittarius is very fast, and also in out of bounds, as Mars exalted out of bounds, and at the same time, Sun and Pluto are in parallel. So it is like it's shaking this moment very, very intensively. The Aries Ingress of Ecuador of last year, we can see that the transiting moon, which is out of bounds with Jupiter, is in opposition to Mars out of bounds, and both square Neptune. And at the same time, Mars transiting Mars, which is also out of bounds, is squaring Mercury of the Aries Ingress chart. This is the chart of Noboa, according to that source. What I can see here is that Pluto is very close to his midheaven. and transiting Moon and Mercury and Mars is in contact with Uranus and Venus, being Venus the ruler of his ascendant. And Neptune, transiting Neptune, is getting closer to the North Node. Just to clarify that the North Node of Noboa is the Mars of Ecuador. The Mars of Noboa is the Lilith of Ecuador, and the Saturn of Noboa is the ascendant of Ecuador. And also transiting Chiron and the North Node are in contact with the Moon, ruler of the 3rd house, and Jupiter, ruler of the 8th house. So it's just to food for thought. The upcoming eclipse will be like in this chart. We can see here Pluto in the descendant, and in the 10th house it will be Jupiter and Uranus, many changes or rapid changes or surprises for the government, and a lot of planets in the 9th house and in the 8th house. Maybe a lot of allocation of resources to combat the drug dealing processes, international Ecuador. But for Noboa, hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And for Noboa, this eclipse will be hitting his Moon and Jupiter again. So again, the ruler of the 3rd and the 8th house. So I think there will be a lot of challenges. But that time of the eclipse, Neptune will hit his North Node, which means the Mars of Ecuador. And Pluto will be very close to his midheaven and in a square with Mars. So I think there will be more things going on afterwards, especially in April. And the eclipse for this country, Neptune is close to Mars, being Mars the ruler of the 12th house and the 5th house. And Mars and Saturn, very close in conjunction, will be making an opposition to the sun of the country. At the same time that the degree of the eclipse will be in the 5th house, very close to the cusp of this 5th house. So I think there will be very shaking moments for the government, probably more problems nationwide, more than what has happened lately. So I think that more things to discuss in the upcoming months. I hope that Ecuador finds peace, because it's they deserve peace. It's very intense what is happening there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ana. Did you want to say something, Luiza?
Yeah, because I don't know if the people who are watching know that Ana lives in a neighboring country. So her perception of what's happening is perhaps more enlightened than ours.
Yeah. I have a question as well. Have they recaptured the escaped prisoner?
Well, I think there's a combination of efforts of the jail system with some certain policemen. They prepare everything to escape. One of the leaders' gang has asked to come back to prison, but he wants guarantee for his life. So it's a negotiation. It is a negotiation. When we knew, thanks Luisa for let people know that I live in Peru. Once we saw this notice, at least I became very nervous, and the frontiers with Ecuador were controlled. But if you can see here, the frontier of Ecuador and Peru is very easy to cross because it's jungle most of the time, and there's no huge controls. So there are a lot of problems. So it is supposed that the leader has escaped from Ecuador. The Fito has escaped from Ecuador. Some say that maybe Colombia, because maybe Colombia is much easier to go to US or Europe somewhere else than coming to Peru. But we are very alert because we know that how they behave, and of course Peru is not is very close to the topic of drug dealing, the gangs, etc. So it is alert for all the neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anna, can you go back to the solar eclipse chart, please, where Pluto was
Yes.
on the descendant? That's fascinating.
It
Yeah,
is.
that, thank you. That's very powerful, isn't it? With Pluto on the descendant there. Yeah, I think
Yes, and not only that, yes, the Aries ingress for this year for Ecuador and also for Peru, Mars will be in the IC.
okay.
Among opposition to Pluto, but Mars will be in the IC, not only for Ecuador but also for Peru as well. So I think that will be shaky. I think Mars, April will be shaky for the region.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming up.
Yes, yes, yes. And Mars, Saturn as well. They will be together.
Yeah,
They will be together. So I think that many things will come up that month.
Yeah.
So we are trying to pray that everything is solved. So that happens.
Yeah, fascinating. It's going to be really interesting to follow, without a doubt. Very interesting. So thank you so much, Anna. I think
it's interesting, isn't it, Anna, that the eclipse next April square Ecuador's sun and nodes. So that's quite
You want to see the eclipse? This is the eclipse
the
Ecuador, the natal chart of Ecuador. This is the one you want to see?
Which was what was I looking at where the sun was 19 Capricorn squared the nodes at 20 Aries Libra?
The first one.
Yeah. What is that, Ecuador's chart?
Yes.
So you've got the eclipse, haven't you, in April? And that is going to be exactly square this sun and the nodes.
Yeah.
So it's in fact it's conjunct the north node, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
That is a very powerful connection. So there's going to be something major happen around that time.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Very interesting. Yes, yes. There will be a lot of, I think a lot of events will come up, a huge one, a massive one. I perceive that it will be a massive one. The whole country, the frontiers, and who knows what else. Yeah.
We'll have to keep
and President Noboa has only 2 months in the power. And he's 36.
Wow.
He's very young.
Yeah.
And he's very young, 36, only 2 months, and he has this problem. So it will be very interesting to know how this Pluto will behave in his midheaven and then squaring Mars. Good luck for him. It has to be protected, but he seems to be very decisive. Very decisive.
He has Mars in Scorpio, he has Mars in Scorpio, so he can take the fight to that. It's right on his descendant there, so he will take the fight to them, I think. He will probably come down quite hard, I would imagine.
Yeah, he'll not back down. I mean, he's got Mars conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, hasn't he?
On the descendant. So his attitude to attack and to people, he's gonna if he gets the chance, shall we say, because you just never know in certain states how things will develop, how the security is there. I mean, if this can happen, you do wonder about the security of politicians and people who can make changes. It's good if you can get them out of the equation, right? So there's a certain risk with Mars there as well, I think, on his descendant.
Yeah, there is, and perhaps you just won't know what's coming with him, with all that's powerful Scorpio energy there. And you just you just won't quite know what's coming. Yeah. Hi, Fernando. Wanting to say something?
Yeah, it's interesting to see that he's the inner wheel. Okay, his natal Jupiter is with the nodes, aligned with the nodes now, which is also square to the yesterday new moon. Yesterday new moon, sun and moon were 20 degree Capricorn, and it's very interesting how someone mentioned that's really out of bounds planets is really like the biggest trigger. But I think that when the sun is square, the nodes, or like it is, I think it's still today, and on his Jupiter, it's really a sort of like a very small eclipse. I mean, eclipse related, right? Because the sun square the moon, it repeats it's like a plot and subplot. The square the nodes is bring back what happens in the past eclipse. And as that American astrologer did his research on moon wobble, he mentions that is a known eclipse moon wobble, that because all conjunction of sun and nodes are wobbles. And when the sun, transiting sun square the nodes, which is because the nodes is backward, so it's less than 90 degree. You see, we have the eclipses and less than 90 degrees, 86 degree and something, right? 86 days after the eclipse, we have the moon wobble. And see how things is playing out in the world, like fire and airplane accidents and fire, and a lot of things that happens like almost on a daily basis, and that's what his research did. It's different from the eclipse or like a great conjunction, because sometimes we say, oh, today Mars is exact opposing Saturn or Pluto, so we see something before or after that date. But on the moon wobble, it's almost like every day. It's like a daily bad news for almost 2 weeks. It's a shower of bad weeks. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
So we have 1 week more to go. So fasten your seatbelt.
Sit tight, everyone. Sit tight. That's brilliant. I think we'll move on now and move on to the post office situation. So, Liz, do you want to share your charts?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can.
Thank you.
If you can see this.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me just for a minute see if I can reduce that so I can get a full screen. Yeah.
Oh, I got that. I got that timeline as well, Liz. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I just thought it was useful for people who just don't know. This is just a little period from 2021, 2022, 2023. But of course, this timeline goes right back to 1999, just to give you an idea of how long this story has been cooking on the back burner. So I just going to just go quickly through it. This I thought was an interesting chart to share, because we haven't got an actual date for the rollout, a definite date for the rollout of Horizon. But there is, from the 2019 part of the inquiry, some data was shared there. And one of the timelines that were given were for the faults that were coming up during the sort of test period. And this one I found really interesting. This was for the 27th of July, 1999, at 10:09. They actually give a time for the fault appearing. So if you go onto the site, you actually see a screenshot, a really old-fashioned sort of screenshot. And the sort of text on the left there is from the inquiry, where it's coming out that the balance that Horizon is giving is totally absurd. I mean, there's a discrepancy, for example, at the bottom there of well over £1 million, which it would be totally impossible for one postmaster to have that sort of deficit in their accounting. But why I find this interesting is because we are here in the summer of 1999, and we're talking about the Nostradamus eclipse. We're talking about that grand cross eclipse. And if you look at this chart, actually, it's just, you know, not long. I think it was 11th of August was the grand cross eclipse of 1999. But this really is the problem with mundane astrology, is that things are happening, but it might take this long for really things to really surface. But the whole horizon rollout, the test period in the summer of 1999, when a lot of things were turning up that were wrong in the system, were taking place under the or around the build up to that grand cross eclipse. And you can see it here on the day and the time that this fault was being discussed or was showing up on the system. We also have the Neptune-Mercury opposition there. So Post Office Limited, I'm sure we're going to look at this centrally, so I won't stay with this, but this is the chart I'm using for them, is the 13th of August, 1987. And I've used midnight because I think these sort of company charts, you know, the liability starts for companies usually at midnight on that day. And you can see it's a massively fiery chart. There are 8 planets in fire signs. And the only planets that are bringing in any other balance of elements is Neptune in Capricorn and Pluto in Scorpio. And here we see in the chart Jupiter in the anaretic degree in Aries. And it's currently going through this long-term sort of, you know, long process of square from Pluto in Capricorn, which is digging up the dirt in a way. And yeah, I mean, that overdose of fire, that huge sort of 4 in Leo, for example, you know, they're wholly consumed in a way with themselves. They were a law unto themselves, Post Office Limited. They were, it has been said in the last few days, they were their own judge, jury and executioner. They controlled the whole process. They had legal, they were like police. They could, well, they just had all kinds of, what's the word? They were able to run the show from start to finish without involvement of external forces like the police, for example. So this is just the UK on the inner wheel, and on the outer wheel you have the Post Office Limited. And you can actually see here how the interests of the country and the Post Office are really bound up with each other. You know, the UK, you know, sort of Mercury is very much about mail and about postage. And, you know, Mercury here in the chart with Post Office Limited, the combination there of Saturn and Mercury, it's actually almost bringing difficulties and problems to the UK Mercury, the radix Mercury. And yeah, we have a lot going on in Leo in the Post Office Limited, which is challenging Saturn, which is the chart ruler. And again, it's highlighting, I think, as well, the whole process of law and legal system in the UK, which is so slow, which is so drawn out over years. I always think it's like, you know, kicking the can down the road sort of thing. If you think how long it takes for people in the UK to get justice for things, it's unbelievable, really. So yeah, and this is when the bywheel with Post Office Limited and the Horizon court case, when the fault was spotted. And as you see that at the time that the Post Office is implementing Horizon, it's going through a massive Uranus transit opposite the Leo cluster. So yeah, this Uranus is definitely the new technology, this, you know, this computer technology that's been brought in. And at the same time, you know, there's all these problems with it. But I mean, we, you know, at that time in 1999, this was all new. And if I think the Post Office had recognized and acted in a way that was more, what's the word, fair and honest, it could have been a whole different ballpark. But it just, you know, Neptune is also in Aquarius, so, you know, in the years that this has been going on, Neptune will have also been opposing all of the Leo planets in the Post Office Limited chart. So then we get to the screening of Mr. Bates on the Post Office, which seems to have just kick-started the whole, it's just suddenly the speed with which things have moved up the agenda. It's like, you know, it's gone from the bottom of the in tray to the top, you know, pretty much overnight. What we see in this chart, of course, is, you know, the sort of grand trine here, you know, and Mercury, which is, you know, is picking up Mercury in the UK chart, in the Post Office Limited company chart. Here it's stationing, and it's stationing direct. So things have to move forward now. This is, you know, this is the moon in Virgo in the first house. These are the people involved getting an opportunity to talk about their suffering. Moon opposite Neptune, moon square Mercury. It's the diligent workers, in a way, telling them their own story. And Venus, which is ascendant ruler of the UK chart, is here square to Saturn. So there's that sense of justice, rather injustice, which is built in. And this power of a story is never to be really underestimated. And I just want to just show a couple of charts here, and we can go back to them, Rod, if we need to. But I also wanted to talk about the court case against Israel, which was brought by South Africa. But maybe that we just talked a bit about the new moon, a square in the nodes. Well, this is it in manifesting yesterday in The Hague. So maybe we can look at that together later. And this is then Israel in the inner wheel. And the final chart that I wanted to present, which is again a time chart. This is taken from the live stream on the Times of Israel. This was Yoav Gallant talking to journalists before he presented the plan at the Knesset for the day after the Gaza war, the future of the Gaza Strip. It's his vision, if you like, of the new Gaza. And it's an interesting chart because obviously what we see straight away is the position of the moon in Libra, which is picking up the October eclipse, last year's October eclipse, which set everything off in a way. It was the starting point for the hostilities that are taking place now. And this, again, it's picking up that Mars way out of bounds, and it's here in the fourth house. And I think for any plan as well, you have to look at the sun because that's the core of it, really. And we can see here the sun as well in the fourth. And what did Yoav Gallant actually say? Israel reserves the right to operate inside the territory. So we have a sense here, I think, with Mars out of bounds in the fourth, the sun exalting Mars in the fourth, this sense of a highly militarized, controlled space, actually, where, you know, I don't really feel that the people, the moon in Libra, which is on the south node here, there's not really an awful lot of space for them in all of this. So yeah, Mars in this chart as well is on the Saturn-Pluto midpoint, which Albertine relates to brutality. And there is that feel, I think, with that Mars-Sun set there in the fourth house. And he says that the Mars on the Saturn-Pluto midpoint relates to the need to fight for one's existence in life. And I think that is the reality here, that, you know, Israel also feels, I think, in its own way, that it too has to fight for its existence. And yeah, if I think the last chart I wanted to show, maybe it's one further back, is the chart of Israel, which, you know, I'm using the Scorpio chart, because Scorpio rising chart, because I do find it hard to see Libra rising in the way Israel behaves. I do find that sort of Scorpio rising fits better, and Pluto being squaring that ascendant as well. And we can see that in the time to come as Pluto moves into Aquarius proper, that it's going to really hit this chart big time. And I will give you a date I think that we should look out for, which is on the 17th of February, when we get a triple conjunction in Aquarius of Venus, Pluto, and Mars in the early degrees of Aquarius, which is going to be opposite the moon. So this might be maximum sort of escalation of it, or Will it be, as I've thought all along, there must be for the US certain risks in an election year of getting too embroiled in a conflict in the Middle East. And there is that sense that they might, have to, take some firmer action to rein in the actions of Israel at the moment. Thank you. That was my contribution there.
No, thank you, Liz. That's led brilliantly into Israel. And I think what you said there about the people not having the space and the fight for survival. Can I just share a chart which absolutely echoes what you've just said, but from a slightly different viewpoint? So if you could stop sharing,
yeah.
And then I'll I'm not used to managing everything all at once. Just bear with me. I am.
Whilst you're sorting it out, Lianne, I just wanted to say that with the post office charts, it was interesting, the planets in Leo, because it was the royal.
The Royal Mail.
And everything,
good point, Sharon. Yeah.
And everything was red. It's all red. In this country, we still have red pillar boxes.
Oh, wow. Excellent point.
All the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, you can feel the fire. It's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so can everyone see this chart that I have up?
Yeah.
Super. I was on two screens and I've just had to unplug one screen and so we're there. So this is the chart of Israel in the middle. I use the same one as you, Liz. That sorry, not quite, but I think, is that the same one as you?
It is, but mine is a bit later. It's got the Scorpio rising chart.
Right,
isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit.
So what I'm trying to think of, because I'm sure like everyone, we're poring over 100 charts a day, like the post office situation. Israel, we're looking at 1 million charts and my head is just spinning with everything. And I'm just trying to strip it back and take a step back and try and look at the bigger pictures, So I'm sort of fascinated with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we've got coming up, because I think that's a pivotal point this year. And I think it's one of those transits or, new cycles that can go either way. It can be really positive or it can be explosive and sort of more shadow negative type thing. So I just thought I'd look at the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction relocated to Israel with the Israel chart there. So you can see there that it's falling on the Israel chart there. So the leadership it's going to be challenged, and I think it's either going to go one way or the other. It's going to sort of find a fresh direction, or it's really going to dig its heels in and sort of rebel for what it really believes in and refuse to sort of conform. It's Taurus.
Yeah,
it's it is going to dig its heels in, and this is quite a fixed chart, Israel, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah.
But then what I found really interesting, and this is what echoes what you were saying, Liz, and I think it's lovely when astrologers come together with the same conclusions, but using slightly different techniques or perspectives. Come on, there we go. So we've got the sun there, the sun in the Jupiter-Uranus chart opposite Hathway, right? Okay, and that's straddling the ascendant descendant of Israel. Whether it's a degree or so out, it's still straddling it. If we think, I don't have time to go into Hathway, a dwarf planet tonight, but if we think of Hathway as, similar to Pluto in some ways, incredibly creative, but it can be incredibly destructive. And it can be very much that fight for survival that you were talking about. And it can be very, very volcanic. It's about a lot of buried energy ready to erupt, okay? But then echoing that even more, we've got Pluto opposite that Israel moon. So we've got a fixed grand cross here between that Jupiter-Uranus chart and the Israel chart. And, with fixed ground crosses, it's full of crises, but it's like, where does the energy go? It's trapped almost, and it's there's a feeling of being trapped here. And moon opposite Pluto, it is about a fight for survival. It is, in its darkest form.
It's also a country divided, isn't it? You know, that Britain
Yeah.
had the Pluto moon opposition when we were going through like the real throes of Brexit. You know, that was so you get like that kind of divided nation, which actually we were seeing in Israel earlier in the year, you know, with the huge demonstrations against the changes to the legal structure there. You know, had all of the sort of handmaidens, you know, from the Handmaid's Tale walking and demonstrated. So there's that sense of like like you've got the Zionists and you've got the rest, if you like. So there's that polarity, almost a sort of schizophrenia, if you like, almost, which we saw in Britain, right? You know, in families, 1 of 4 remain, the other 4 leave. So it was very polarized, wasn't it? If you think back on it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very frustrating. There's a lot of frustration when you get a fixed cross like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, you know, from what I gather, most of the Israeli people do not want this level of violence and conflict. But as we know, the leadership has just gone sort of hell bent for death and destruction and revenge, and you know, all this happened under a lot of Scorpio weather back in sort of November time. And it was Scorpio at its worst. We did discuss this in the November Worldscope, I think. So anyone watching, they can go back and review exactly what we discussed then. But I just, you know, I looked at this chart and I just didn't get a great feel about it. But I do wonder if I don't know. I think there's going to be something creative comes out of something very destructive, perhaps. So yeah, hey Luiza.
Do any of you know when the court in Hague is going to say something? Because I can't stop staring at this Pluto on the IC, which I see very damaging for the people of Israel and maybe for all Jews in general, even those that are not there.
Yeah.
So
well,
do you guys know anything?
It'll take it'll take them you know, the process there is long as well. So I think what's important is that the things are being archived and there will be a dossier. So if it takes 10 years, you know, before that can be reopened, and there's a lot of material that has been archived about this conflict, it's been booked in a legal setting, if you like. But the best that could come out of it is that the court decides that the hostilities have to stop. They could say that. You know, before they make any ruling, they could say it is genocide and therefore it has to, you know, it has to stop, you know, now, sort of thing, while the court then does the rest of the process. But it's unlikely that will happen. I think if you looked at the chart for the opening event, the moon was, you know, the people, the ascendant was, conjunct the sun in the 12th. And today, in fact, Israel is trying to get the whole case thrown out on legal grounds, saying that, you know, without proof of intent, you cannot question or raise the question of genocide. So there'll be a lot of legal jargon to sift through. So it's going to take years for them. It always does. It takes years for the Hague to make a ruling. But the best case scenario would be that what they could do now is demand a ceasefire. But Israel, the US doesn't anyway, isn't bound by that court in any way, shape or form. And Russia also doesn't, you know, countries can decide, well, you know, we're not going to follow the ruling, you know, it's, but it would place Israel in a difficult position if the court ruled quite soon. They could do that, I think, if they're going to do it. But don't hold your breath, I would say.
No, I'm just looking at those legal. I've just put some arrows there to the legal themes, and the Neptune square. So anyway, Fernando, what?
Yeah, yes, when you mentioned destruction, a lot of destruction, I immediately thought about self-destruction. Every time Pluto, Scorpio, you see, with the sting, when there is no way to go and it kills itself. So in bed, you know, in a bed, how do you say that? mental health situation that I have worked in Boston with. I think some people know that I have worked with I forgot to say, chemical dependence. When they see no way out, they turn all that anger that they have to their parents, government, and their abusers to them. And I was sad because they really died. That's it. They decide, they make a, it's an inner decision. So it's sudden. It's very erroneous because it's sudden, it's radical. So every time I see fixed signs, I think about radical, something that's radical, because you have to shake too much that until it breaks, because we know that they, fixed sign, they don't like, that changing. But when I see the fixed signs, especially like Moon, Pluto, and Saturn, fixed signs in angular houses, so it really is it's the core of the situation of a person in the country. So someone mentioned that's true. A chart like that for someone who was born at the time it really shows that the dangers of and very deep rooted mental health problem that needs all everything. Is not just a light therapy. It's really
that's true.
Psychoanalysis or psychopharmacologies that people don't like, but it's really something to be worried about. Thank you.
It is self-destructive. That you're very, very, and Pluto, like a Sun Pluto. So, yeah. Anyway, Rod.
Yeah. Well,
what would you like to say?
Yeah, it's am I still okay with the voice? You can hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I would just want to raise, because while Lianne pointed out that Jupiter at 27 degree, and that is the galactic center degree. Usually there is a much larger scale event are involved when every time we have this kind of when planet go into the galactic center degree. And coincidentally, because when last time when Liz shared the Hamas charter in the 1988, if I remember, 1988, that was the Saturn in 26 Sagittarius and the Uranus in 27 Sagittarius. And we know that today, I think yesterday, when 11th January, when they start the hearing, public hearing of this genocide case, Mercury is at 27 degree of this, it usually is like a much larger scale, and everyone involved, and you cannot avoid to look at it, talk about it, and think about it. So, which is pretty interesting, that sensitive degree of the galactic center degree here.
Yeah, very. And I think that's pivotal in the evolution of everything.
Yeah, yeah,
think of
indeed.
the right words. It goes deeper than even the collective, doesn't it?
Yes. I think we have Maria.
Yeah, hi Maria.
Hi. Well, I was noticing that the MC is on natal Jupiter for Israel, and Jupiter rules the 5th. And if you look at the two charts, you can see how both malefics are on the 5th of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that degree between Mars and the ascendant is where we had the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And also the ruler of the 5th is in the natal chart is in the 12th, the other ruler of the 5th. So I was thinking that, I hope not, but this could also mean bad news for those kids that are being held hostages. I don't think this looks well for those. Okay, so just wanted to make that point, because you can see how in this chart you can see how kids are suffering, right? The two malefics there on the 5th. So I thought that was I was really impressed by that.
Yeah,
it's a new generation of traumatized children. So it's going to take decades for healing. It's not You see, the damage is already done. It doesn't matter what happens in the court or here and there, because the younger a child suffer any kind of abuse and trauma, the longer it takes. And if they don't have the knowledge or money for treatment, the cheapest thing is to use drugs. It's very easy, and they soothe their emotional pain. And only when their lives are destroyed after 20 years old, 30 years old, they cannot hold a job, love relationship, and this and that. So it's I have worked with this population for 7 years. It was really something, a hard lesson for me to learn in this life, because if there is something that for me translates human hell, it's drug dependency that you just cannot heal yourself alone. You really need a strong network. And even though a lot of people, they fall from the sides because we don't tell them the statistics. They think, oh, you are in the right place, you're going to do well. But we know that for every group that enters treatment, only 10% sustain a year long. How do you say that? When you don't are dependent no more, it's I forgot
Clean?
the word. They say clean or abstinence or clean, so you can hold. And also another data, if you are willing to share with people that work, especially social worker. They are wonderful people. they are angels on earth, like Boston, the social workers. And they say that if they are connected to any kind of spiritual healing, going to church or AA meetings, they have more chances to heal the trauma, because that's the thing. That's the point, that governments and health ministry, they don't get it. If they don't, it's not just the money and the work and the medication and treatment. If you don't heal the trauma, you don't heal addiction. That's period. Unfortunately, or whatever.
Yeah. There's going to be generations of trauma here, and I'm just looking at Ceres, dwarf planet Ceres here. Ceres can be about grief, but if you think about the myth of Ceres, her daughter Proserpina was abducted by Pluto and taken down into Hades, into the underworld, and these children have been abducted. And you're right, whether they are returned or not, they will never, ever be the same again. And even the children that are living in Gaza, or even the children in Israel who aren't affected physically, and the children in Palestine, they must be watching this. They will be soaking this up from their parents and from the media. And they will never be the same again. You're right. There's going to be another entire generation completely traumatized, carrying the wounds and scars of this. And I wonder if that's connected to sort of Pluto opposite the moon, because Pluto and the moon are evolutionary. They're going to carry all the trauma, so yeah, it's toxic as well. Trauma feeds down through generations.
Gaza has been practically a concentration camp. I mean, I don't know if you are aware or if you knew that a Palestinian writer living in Berlin was awarded a prize at the book fair, Frankfurt Book Fair. The book is called A Minor Detail. And then because it shows the parallel of what happened in 48 in Palestine and what's happening now, the award was not given because it would inflame the spirits, etc., etc. And when you look at it's a little book, and when you start reading, you realize that all that is a concentration camp, because even on the West Bank, you can not go from one city to another without the permit. So this is a whole generation and generations living in concentration camps. Whether you have, you know, not the exact image of what we have in our minds as a concentration camp like Auschwitz, but it's a refugee camp. It's a camp with very limited borders. So, you know, if we're talking about the trauma of this one, we have to enlarge it for the trauma of these past years.
Yeah.
And you see, Luiza, what you said before, you know, I don't know why the media is not talking about that, because the anger that being felt by the whole planet about, you know, it's going to put any citizen in danger in any place in the world later.
Yeah, but so that Pluto moon is it's very present, it's very here, and it's affecting millions of people. That's basically it.
Another way we could probably look at Pluto in the 4th as well is the use of technology or the further development of certain types of technology, because Israel is kind of one of the leading manufacturers of certain types of technology which they've tested in Gaza, which is, you know, drone technology, surveillance technology. And I think with Pluto in Aquarius moving into the 4th, I think that sort of technology as well is going to be amplified, the use of it, particularly coming into the Pluto opposition. It's really well known for its military, it's sort of high-tech military equipment.
Gigantic Big Brother.
Much worse, well, plus, Big Brother, plus.
Plus.
Yeah.
Plus.
Yeah, forget what it's called now, but I know the US gets quite a lot of military, that type of equipment, that sort of military stuff from Israel as well. So it's because they can try out things, you know, in Gaza, because it's a perfect sort of setting for experimenting with certain types of surveillance technology. So that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's not the first time that governments, you know, they take crisis and wars to do experiments. Some we don't even know, and it's going to show later. So truly, they are trying new whatever, you know. That's scary. That is scary. What we don't know, because we are talking about underworld, you see, and even when we talk about underworld, if we don't go there, like Persephone, we don't know what is like. We don't know what is cooking in the wonderboard. So, you know, and it's dangerous if you go even in astral travel, you know, in a mental plane or in prayers. We have to be protected somehow, because it can contaminate it. You know, if we do that's the experiment. So that's my belief. Okay, this is not astrology. It's like metaphysical belief. Metaphysical. If we go places unprotected, we are contaminated with the very, very bad energy, and we get sick, and we don't help anybody else.
Well, Lianne, I believe that you have other slides related to post office. Before we move on to post office, if anyone want to make comment about the Gaza's chart or situation, or we can. Lianne, do you have I think you say you have a slide related to post office.
Yeah, I did. It was one of the ones that Liz had, but I had a very slightly different perspective on it. And
Let's share it. I think
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Where are we? Which one is it?
Yeah, I think the post office scandal was really striking, because I think it was a lot, really more than a decade, and people. Well, we do talk about it, but when you image that starting from even before 1999, I think some say the whole program beginning with 1995, and they just they have a trial before, and then why those cases only until 2020 to being, you know, people take it more seriously, and it is very interesting. So, well, Lianne,
it should be coming on in a minute. from coincide. I think this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had this as well, Liz. It was the start of the post office incorporation with the UK chart. But I just quickly wanted to share a couple of thoughts on it, because I thought the biggest this is Pluto and Capricorn, isn't it? It's
it is
corrupt about people in positions of power. That is what it's about, and it's political. It's about corporations. It's about money. It's about the fat cats getting fatter and richer. Simple as. Okay. So all I wanted to say was. So we talked about that Leo energy up there on the Saturn, and it's about legislation as well, isn't it? But this is about politics. It's about people high up in the places like the House of Lords. It's very Leo, and all that sort of thing. What I found interesting as well, we have Neptune, the post office Neptune down there on the IC. Obviously, they've pulled the wool over people's eyes. But of course, it was about a franchise, wasn't it? It was about all these, the branches being run by franchise partners, the sub-post masters, that type of thing. But what I found fascinating, like you mentioned, Liz, was, we've got transit Pluto squaring the post office Jupiter, but that's about to move in the next sort of year or so, and it's going to oppose the UK Jupiter. All right. That's very House of Lords. And I really, really think when Pluto hits that UK Jupiter, we're going to start seeing massive changes in the political system, because this is exposing everything that's rotten. Politics, politicians have covered this up. The police have covered this up. Everyone, lawyers have covered this up. Lawyers were acting like the mafia. And it's been revealed today, and the lawyers were threatening the BBC if the BBC talked about this a few years ago. They were threatening, it was properly like the mafia. But I think as well, if we look down here at, I've got that, at that UK Pluto, okay, we've got the post office Juno there. Juno always reveals the truth. Juno, the truth will always come out, because the wool cannot be pulled over our eyes anymore, okay? But if we think about that UK Pluto, we've had Saturn go over it recently. And that is also a Pluto return of the UK 1066 chart. Okay, so Saturn's pulling out everything, the very foundations, the very sort of where the UK came from. And I really do think this is going to be the beginning of the end for all these fat corporations, perhaps private companies, which again is a very Capricorn thing. And I really do think when sort of Pluto goes into Aquarius, if we're going to see more nationalisation again. We just have to look at the railways, the state of the railways in the UK, because they were privatised or semi-privatised. So I think this post office, it really is the beginning of the end for all those big fat private corporations and our current political situation as we know it. So that was it, really.
Yeah.
We're just turning the wheel again.
Yeah. No. I think because I would just like because I think the post office case is pretty interesting. But I would just like we were talking about Gaza, and we just focused on Gaza for a while. But here I have something to share. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
With this chart, I noticed one thing. It's about please stay with this chart. Thank you, Lianne. Please stay with this chart because. Oh, sorry.
Oh no! Did you want it back on?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So, because that chart is pretty interesting, because we know the CEO, the boss of the post office, Paula Fernando, at that time from 2012 to 2019, she was the main key character of this whole scandal, because the whole scandal beginning before her, we know that. But while she was a CEO, and she handled in this case in a very to be honest, in a very different way. But her words say, I'm trying to protect post office reputation.
Yeah.
And we know that when you show the link with the 8001 chart, and then because I didn't notice the post office have a Juno at 2° Pisces. Well, Paula Minor, she was born in 21st February 1959. Her son at 2° Pisces.
Really? Wow.
Her son is at 2° Pisces with that Juno. I want to protect my family.
Yeah.
I want to protect the company's reputation there. That was a little bit interesting. And then Saturn hit there. Saturn hit that again. It's like, ouch.
Yeah.
It's also that Leo pride, isn't it? That's that
Yeah.
stellium in Leo. You know, it's a proud, you know, we
Yeah.
can't show, you know, we've been disgraced in some way, or we weren't up to the
Yeah.
job. You know, we
Yeah,
weren't up
and
to it.
because we don't have her birth time, she probably have her moon in Leo somewhere. If we use a noon chart, her moon would be 8° Leo.
Yeah.
That means her moon, either she was born in the morning, early morning, or something. Her moon would be around that Leo thingy there if she born a little bit late. Yeah, but I was striking by when you showed the Juno, because I was like, oh, post office, what? They have a 2° Juno there. I mean, that is pretty interesting. But I think this is also about, like, I agree with Lianne, is about that, you know, a big organization, that Pluto theme there. Yeah.
But do you I don't know, are you picking up though as well, maybe on this sort of transition from, you know, Pluto in Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius, in the sense of, you know, one of the terms that have been used is this is Pluto, David and Goliath sort of battle, where you have like the small person, which, you know, actually we are many when you know, when a story comes to the public attention, then we realize we are many. But before that, you were isolated. But that idea of, you know, people power, you know, what people can bring about, you know, it's that David and Goliath theme, which is interesting as Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius, especially because, you know, technology is at the heart of the problem here, and we're moving into, you know, ChatGPT and all of these new things that are coming in, this modern technology. And this is almost like a red flag to us coming to the surface just as Pluto changes sign. You know, it's sort of showing us what can happen if we're not on the ball. You know what I mean? If organizations aren't transparent, if things are not in order, then, you know, this is the kind of drama that transpires. So I think I'm picking up the Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius, and bringing certain themes to the foreground, things that are going to be very dominant in the 19 years or whatever that Pluto moves through Aquarius. I don't know. Do you agree? I mean, that's what I'm seeing anyway. That's what I'm picking up.
Absolutely. I think all corporations and governments now, with this change from the 29 Capricorn into Aquarius, I think this whole year is going to be about people waking up and realizing what really has gone on behind the scenes. People have just
gaslighted. This is about gaslighting, isn't it? Absolutely.
And I think it's going to happen in every area. And I think that the Jupiter-Uranus is about the big shocks that are coming, really. I mean, Jupiter-Uranus is known as the thank the Lord aspect, but it's the thank the Lord aspect because of things being, you know, you have to have the shock first to actually wake people up. And then people will say, oh my gosh, you know, thank goodness that's happened. And we can, I mean, people are all of a sudden waking up. So yeah, I think this is what the whole year is going to be about.
Because this is the definite shift now. I mean, at the end of this year, you know, the move out of Capricorn will be a reality, right? And so the sort of themes and things that have been coming out, you could also see that same theme in Gaza, Palestine as well, where you've got this superior force of the US and all. Because if you look who's supporting the Palestinians, they, for the main part, they are ex-colonial colonies themselves. You know, they have been at the other end of the whip, so they understand oppression. So that polarity that we see in individual countries, like certainly across Europe, the rise of the right, that big divide, it's global as well in a way, you know, because as I say, I find it really remarkable who is supporting the South African case, you know, and it's most of those countries have been themselves, you know, part of the colonial past of, you know, whether it be France or the Holland or Britain or whatever. But it's that sort of big split. It's across the globe. It's north south. I don't know, but maybe it's a learning curve. I mean, that would be positive if we can evolve beyond it.
Yeah. Well,
actually, on that note, there is a lot of things going to happen at the beginning of the 6 months of this year in Africa. A lot of new elections, a lot of new leaders trying to come up out completely outside, a little bit like the president of Ecuador, a completely different generation.
Something like 70 elections this year.
Yeah,
it's half of the world's population.
I mean, extraordinary, and a great deal more next year. So I mean, things won't stay the same.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, well, the first election will begin tomorrow in Taiwan. Do you want to look chat?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
I was like, you know, I was, because my microphone wasn't work before, so I was thinking, you know what, maybe the God don't want me to talk about it. I was joking. No. So, well, I will share the opening the pool chart, okay, and maybe have a quick look at every single chart and see how you guys thinking, okay, and feel free to chip in because I have really no idea. Okay, let's go. I have to, well. Sorry, I have to reclaim the host back. Sorry, Lianne. I'll take it back. Here we are. I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm going to share the chart here. Well, I wasn't prepared for this because, I mean, I was thinking today we have a lot of talk about it, and my microphone doesn't work. I was like, give up a Taiwan topic. But I think, as we mentioned, there's a 70 or 17 election this year all around the world. This is the first one tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., beginning the Taiwanese presidential election. Well, there's a 3 set of candidates, and the main candidate is government party called DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, which is a pro-independent, for Taiwan independent party. They were in power for last 8 years. Well, the opposition party, there are two. One is the KMT, nationalism, which was the beginner of the country's party, but they are pro-unite with China. So people are usually thinking they are pro-China. So in this chart, it is open the pool chart. I know not many people want to use this chart, but this is the beginning of a voting tomorrow. So, well, I will take, I don't know how Sharon look at it and how other colleagues look at. I usually take the first house as the power, as the party, as the government party, and the seventh house as their opponent, like a battlefield. That's my take of this chart. Could you guys see it? Is that okay? Yeah. So yeah, the moon is right on the ascendant, and I'm not going to say everyone supports the current government party, but at least they are at least according to poll on the 3rd of January, they are still the number one on the race. They still top on the race, but their opposition, to be honest, if they integrate, that's what they dream. They always say we should integrate together so we can win the power back. But unfortunately, disagree with each other. So both opposition party have to share their vote. So at this moment, I don't know about race because things could change. Last poll was on the 10th, on the 3rd of January. The government party is still possible the most popular one. But there is a desire for change because people say we don't like these. You either choose between you independent or united with China. And of course, China is threatened, and China supports the opposition party because what they don't like is a pro-independent party, which the L1, the ascendant ruler is started in Pisces, and I think that I don't know could be maybe even they are a little bit wonky, a little bit with as a Pisces, not sure, but at least you're in the first house. Instead of opposition party, the sun represents 7th house, and in the 12th house. So there is a little bit, I don't know, weakness there. I don't know how you guys see this chart, and or if you prefer to see either the Aries English chart or something else.
Well, Rod, I looked up the new moon because it's 2 days before, and the new moon chart for Taipei puts Uranus on the midheaven.
Okay, so that means a change.
Yeah, and if you look at the Capricorn ingress, which we did look before the other time, Uranus is in the 9th house, approaching midheaven, but not exactly there. That MC is ruled by a Mercury retrograde. So I think that the status quo maybe does not continue for long.
Okay. Yeah. And should we look at the, I don't know, which Aries English chart should we look at? This is 2024. For Aries English chart, the Saturn is pretty close to ascendant. Well, I don't know who's going to be elected, but it's a big challenge for the power in Taiwan. And Moon is opposite Pluto from the 8th house, so that is a kind of a economic war there, financial economic war there. So it's like they are going to use all the resource to fight with. Yeah.
Rod, how often are there elections in
every 4 years? Every 4 years.
So and if they start like in the US, the election always starts at a set time and a set location will be, so it'll always be Aquarius rising, right? On the election, if it's always is it, well, I don't know, but in the US it's always the first Wednesday or Thursday of November or something. Quite often it's the same.
I think Taiwan is it's quite interesting for Taiwan. That would be always on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the moon in Aquarius, I always think it's a sort of great symbol for a democratic feeling, or a democratic, that principle will be upheld, that people appreciate the fact, because if you're in China, you don't have this right to actually go and cast a vote. So I think people, whatever the outcome, they recognize, I think, that the fact that they can vote matters. And I mean, moon, the next aspect that the moon will go to is Venus, right? That's I think, as far as I can see anyway.
Yes.
Which so and that rules the 4th, which is, you could say, outcomes in a way, I don't know, but so my feeling is that what would be the best outcome for Taiwan really would be to maintain the status quo, to keep things as they are, because they've got that special status at the moment within the system, in the sense of they've got their own unique democracy within, basically with China's got an eye on them, right? But they're given some freedoms. because I don't, if you look at the other chart that you looked at for that, for the Aries ingress, I mean, yeah, it's like, can we see that again? The
Yeah, just a moment.
Aries
Yeah,
ingress charts.
it's next year. Yeah,
I mean, like Saturn, Neptune bracketing the midheaven there.
yeah,
it feels kind of, I find Saturn in Pisces anyway, it's that feeling of being bogged down in things. If you look at Ukraine this year, there's been no movement there worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Everything gets dragged into the mud a bit.
Yeah.
So my feeling is, looking at that moon Aquarius, I think people will appreciate their democratic rights, and will, go for Venus, which is true. And Venus has got mutual reception, I think, hasn't it, with Jupiter at the moment.
Jupiter.
So, so there's that sense of maintaining the status quo, and, trying to not rock the boat. That's the feeling I get anyway.
It is quite interesting if I put two charts together. One is some people use this chart the 1st of January from the League campaign, the 1st January of 1912, and then you can see that Uranus is pretty close to the Moon and the Saturn. So there is a desire for change. I have to admit that in the island, people were just like, nah, we fed up with all this, and they want to vote different people.
Okay.
So yeah, there is things there, and but Saturn with Chiron, that is pretty interesting. Have you seen that? Saturn is right on the Chiron, and there is you still try to remember, that the pain of the past. But you're right, the Venus is taking an important role here, because the country's Venus chart, the opening the pools at NC is only Venus, which is the ascendant ruler and the 8th house ruler. So it is pretty interesting. I mean, Sharon is quite quiet. I don't know what Sharon thinks about this chart or the Aries ingress.
Well, everyone's going lickety spit, and obviously I look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah, but one thing I like to hear different. Yeah,
but what I do notice is the reception between the Mars and Venus in the 1912 chart, and the fact that the MC icy point is right on that Venus Mars, and Venus rules the 1st. So obviously there's a lot of emphasis on the people's assets, because it's Venus is in the 2nd house, and Mars is in the 8th of other people's money, so they're pulling against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was something else that I saw as well, but I've lost it now, I think.
But how would you see that though, Sharon, in terms of the election? Would you see that in terms of, for example, because indeed Taiwan produces a lot of computer parts, doesn't it? It's the larger producer. I forget of what it is.
A semiconductor chip.
That's it. Yeah. So are you thinking about then, for example, that?
Well, it comes down to the finances, doesn't it? The finances. We're looking at the 8th house, the finances of the partners. Now we can take the partners as perhaps China, because everything goes through China initially. And they're looking to increase their money with that Jupiter sitting there. But when Jupiter gets to the degree of the Saturn moon, I think that actually could be quite an interesting time for Taiwan's finances and partnership deals. Not so much with the election, but looking at the election. I mean, Rod pointed out that there's more than one way to skin a cat. So you can either look at the 10th as the incumbent ruling party, and then the 4th is the opposition, and the 1st is the people, to see which way the people would vote. And so if we looked at that, we look at the moon, it's in the 8th house of other people's money from the 8th, from the 10th, and the 5th. And then if we look at the Saturn, so we're looking at the Capricorn Saturn, and that Saturn is in Pisces, so we would do it like 3, perhaps it's the 3rd sign from Capricorn, and then you would be looking at communications and travel and everything that goes with the 3rd house. But as we know, everything comes down to power, control, and money, and never mind the people.
I don't know if what I read is correct and I interpreted it correctly, but talking about economics, I thought that in the program, KMT was more intent on doing a lot more with China, cooperating economically with China.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that links to what Sharon said, with what Sharon said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's look into the economic links of commerce, of trade, and it's KMT, which is the other party.
Yeah. So Luiza, you are correct, because apparently I think the government party are more kind of they is kind of for independence. So they are kind of protected, thinking about China and trying to use the economic power to have influence in islands, culture and the political situation. But I think the KMT and even the another popular party, they are more opening they have a more open attitude toward China. So this is like for the last 8 years, because of the government party has kind of usually say for Taiwan independent idea. So China is kind of cut the link and kind of trying to not do as much business with Taiwan as possible. So that is the situation. That is the situation, and Sharon mentioned about this. So that is, if they're going to change, and that is very different. Yeah.
And America's got a lot of interest in the region as well. So
definitely. Are you joking?
It's got a finger in well, it has, so isn't it? Because of the resources, and also the location and the growing tension there as well. In the China Sea, and the buildup of military, particularly naval military, US military in that region. It's all hotting up, isn't it?
Definitely. Well, I'm just curious if Grace have anything to share.
I'm thinking about the can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking about the chart. So it look like for Taiwan people maybe will fight for freedom.
Yeah.
Because of Pluto opposite with Mercury.
Yeah. That is quite interesting, because just before that we heard about in Taiwan, there's entertainment news, like popular rock band has been accused for several things in China. And then there is another news comes out saying because China is kind of manipulate them. Anyway, so there is a lot of rumor that's really Mercury square Neptune thing, and that was pretty
in the future, in the future maybe we'll fight for freedom.
So
something like in Hong Kong.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to go that way. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Today we covered quite a lot, especially for beginning. I even have a problem with connecting, and thanks for Lianne to step in to help me. I was so panicked, to be honest, when Sharon said, Roland, we couldn't hear what I got. But we handle it very well. Thanks, Lianne, and thanks, Fernando. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Anna.
Good evening.
And Luiza.
Good night.
Sarah,
Good
and
night.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Just before you go,
Bye.
well, I have to say, because tomorrow Robyn is going to give a talk, and please come to join us. And well, for Robyn's registration is already closed. I'm sorry, but we have enough people. But next week, Sharon, could you just tell us a little bit? What are you going to tell us next week, next weekend, next Sunday? Because it sounds pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, what's the subject which is dear to everyone's heart? Use that shaped heart, and of course it's love and romance.
So Sharon is going to talk
That'll
about.
That'll be a nice relief, won't it, from all
Yeah.
the politics?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought
And now
I'd
for
do
something completely different.
and look at the lot of marriage and the lot of Eros.
Ooh.
Those two just
Great.
ruling planet. So
Yeah.
something different.
You're not going to be doing Harry and Meghan, are you?
I might do it just
for you.
Liz.
Well, Robyn is going to talk about what's going to happen in 2024.
Basically, what I'd like to do, because I really believe you're all really seasoned astrologers. And, you know, there's something that's just missing in your astrology because you're not using the moon phases the way you should be using them. And the moon phase, and so basically what I want to do is I just want to go through a few charts, but I want to show you how to use the moon phases with the chart that we're looking at. Because you just get so much more information, you get timing, you can, you know, I mean, it's crazy that none of you use this system because it's really, really simple.
Yep, I think it's very interesting technique, and I think it's highly recommended, even by Christine Skinner. Well, when I was chat with her on the last 2 weeks ago, she was highly recommended Robyn's book too. So hey,
I know. I sent her a couple of journals, and she rang me and said, "Oh my God, I never realized how one could put this timing together." So I just feel like I'm not very technical, and I'm not going to do a very fancy presentation. I'm just going to go through the bases and how you use the moon phases and how we can look at the different charts and how I can show you to look at certain charts and how to find what to look for as far as the moon phases are concerned.
Exactly. So, hello everyone. Even you are on YouTube, if you still want to join us, please contact me, and I will send you the link. And thanks everyone for joining. Sorry for taking this long today. And thanks everyone to join us. Thank all our audience on the YouTube, and thank Maria. She left a little bit early. And then we will see you next. Next month I will be in Asia. So our special program will come back in March, 16th of March. We'll see you in March then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Gracias.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.